Well, hey everybody, old Pipe Pappy here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's cold, frigid one here. We got snow on the ground. It's in the teens. It's cold. I'm ready for some warm weather. Get back on the front porch, do some rocking and storytelling. But I'm here today to do a VR. That Smoke Guy 13 wanted us to do a VR. Went out there, dadgummit. Anyway, he wanted us to do a VR on who we'd like to smoke a pipe with. From the past, from the present, historical to, whoever. Santa Claus to Gerald Ford, I guess. Fictional to real. So I'm behind. I want to do about 3 contests. I got screwed up the other day, but I'm behind, but I'm going to catch up today. So anyway, here's the VR for that. Just a little introduction to it. A lot of people don't know this, and I'm going to do a video one day. I'm a NASA brat. My dad worked for NASA as a mechanical engineer. After he got back from Iwo Jima, worked for McDonnell Douglas in California, was an aircraft mechanic. Came over to Cocoa Beach to the Cape when it went up, and then he was one of the original wrenches that came over with the original 7 astronauts. We spent many a day, Saturday morning, getting a butch haircut, sitting next to Gordon Cooper, who was my favorite at the time. But so I grew up. We went where the space program went, wound up and landed in Houston in '67. So most of the astronauts in the program that were in Houston, I was friends with their kids. I mean, we just grew up together. It wasn't nothing special to us. It was just that's what our parents did. They were with the NASA program. So, that gum a little bit moist. I should have dried it out. I didn't. I'm smoking out of my Camoys, which I've got dedicated to Virginia's. This is a straight Virginia, McBaron. It's Virginia #1. Oh, tamper that down just a little bit more. But anyway, so I went all over the country with the space program. Daddy lived to be a ripe old age, 92 years old, and he was with them from the get-go to the space shuttle when he retired from NASA. But so I'm a NASA brat. I thought about this, who I'd like to smoke a pipe with, and actually, fella's still alive. He's in his 80s, but his name is John Young. John Young was an astronaut. In fact, the most prolific astronaut in the space program. A lot of people don't know that. He spent 42 years in the space program, service with this country. National hero. Gemini 3, he flew in Gemini 10. He was in Apollo 10, Apollo 16, flew the shuttle. Went up 6 times. I had a lot of time to go into space there. One of 3 guys to go to the moon twice. He drove the lunar module, and he was the 9th man to walk on the moon. And I'd like to talk to him about one thing. He was commander of Apollo 10. Now, Apollo 10, what their mission was, for those of you that don't know the history of the space program, their history was they were the test flight for Apollo 11. They got close enough to land. That wasn't part of their mission. They could have been the first people to land on the moon, first crew to land on the moon, Apollo 10. But it was a dress rehearsal for Apollo 11. So I'm fascinated with space. Like I said, grew up in it. Know personally the astronauts and the kids that are about my age now. We all grew up together. It was nothing weird. It was just, that's what we did. I mean, like people that grew up in Detroit, their parents worked with Ford and GM. I was born down at the Cape. I got some great stories to tell. I'm going to save them, but I'd like to ask John Young, even though he did get to walk on the moon, and he was the 9th man on the moon, and even though he drove the lunar module on the moon, I'd like to ask him what the feelings were to get that close to being the first people, the first human beings to walk on another planet, which I think is the greatest feat in man's history. Greatest man-made feat ever. Even when the last space tanks shuttle went up, I still got tingles. I remember being a little boy, Mama holding my hand. We'd be out on the beach right behind the house. We lived right on the water down there at Cocoa, watching them lift-offs. But I got a million stories I'd like to tell, but I think John Young is almost lost in history because people don't know this guy was up 6 times. From the Gemini program, Gemini 3, all the way to the space shuttle. 42 years of service. That's amazing. But my question to him would be, what it feel like I want to know what a human being feels like to be that close to being the first people on the moon and having to go, Roger, Houston, fire it back up and come back home, so that Neil, Buzz, and Mike could do that next flight in July and be the first ones to land on the moon. So you're that close to the greatest feat in history, but not quite there. I'd like to know what that felt like. I'd like to personally know how he felt. And so that would be my guy. Astronaut John Young, 42 years of service in the American space program to his country. 6 flights, 2 to the moon, 9th man to walk on the moon. Amazing stuff. And I would smoke with him Ted's Blend number 300, Founders Blend, and say, this is from our little old pipe shop here in Tulsa, John. What do you think about this? And get his opinion on it. Because I don't know what he smoked. But that's what I'd do. I'd turn him on to what we've got here. We've actually got a space museum in Tulsa. We were up for one of the shuttles. We didn't get it. But we've got a really good space museum here. But That Smoking Guy 13, congratulations. I think you're over 100 subs, huh? And excited about it. So 200's right around the corner, buddy. You're a great guy. I hope a lot of people join this contest because it'll be fun to watch the VRs. So my answer is John Young, American astronaut, smoking Ted's number 300 blend, the Founders Blend. So from Tulsa, I'll see y'all on the flip side. Have a great day, and God bless y'all.